Welcome to our Urban Legends podcast. I'm Dr. Gloria McDaniel Hall. I've been a teacher, a principal, and assistant superintendent, all within urban schools in Chicago and around the country. Our Urban Legends podcast is a forum for sharing ideas, strategizing together, and supporting each other as we dismantle the deficit narratives sometimes associated with urban education and discuss where and how amazing work is being done. So welcome everybody to another episode of Urban Legends. I got my Urban Legends sweatshirt on, and today we have Brian and Lisa with me who work with me at National Louis. And I didn't tell you to, but at the end you get a t-shirt for helping me today. You'll be an urban legend once we get done. But I'm so excited for you all to be with me today because as I was thinking about interviewing you, I feel like there are some people who I know who we work with and they're cool and I know them, but you two seem a little different. Like you felt like a connection for me from the very beginning. So I'm just really excited to be able to talk with you. Been to Brian's house and we just got a different kind of connection. But then also the program that you all are leading, I think is of such importance because now all we hear about are teacher shortages and who's not making it. And I know that you've had a lot of success with your program. And so I want to not only have you share that, but also talk about how people who might be thinking about becoming teachers might be able to get into your program. So as we start each time, I ask each person to share their journey in education and what led you to your current role. So Lisa, you want to start?
That sounds great. Thanks, Gloria. It's a pleasure to be here. I taught 3rd through 8th grade and started off in Colorado, but then I moved to Illinois. And when I moved to Illinois, I found this really interesting school in Evanston called National College of Education. And I was coming around a corner and I saw the school and it just kind of struck me. And it turned out that they had a demonstration school there called Baker Demonstration School. So I go way back at the institution. I taught middle school there, and when it was the demonstration school for National College of Education for National Louis. And so I've got this long history with NLU, but what was unique about the demonstration school is you were demonstrating kind of best practices and how to teach for teachers. And I really loved the teacher training part of it. So stepped out for a little bit to have my family, but when I came back, I ended up being an instructor here in the graduate program. I taught elementary and middle grades classes here. And one thing led to another, and they asked me to help get some student teaching placements. And then that led to a few other things. And now I'm the executive director of field experience and school partnerships at NLU and work with both the undergraduate and the graduate program.
That's a long story short. That's a very fancy title, Lisa. You're going to have to explain that. Okay, Brian, how about you?
No, well, first of all, thank you for having us, Gloria. And the sentiment is shared. We are equally fond of our relationship with you. But I'll try to give you the yellow and black abridged version. Did not initially begin my career as an educator. Psychology degree turned into a human resource development degree, turned into a lot of just uncertainty. So I ended up actually substitute teaching after I came home from school. And it was a means to an end. And that turned into a full-time subbing position for a 7th grade social studies teacher that resigned. So I started in October of that school year and went through the end of the year. And it was during that 6 to 7 months that really kind of unlocked my passion for teaching and leading, unbeknownst to me, right? So I decided to get certified to teach through a teacher residency program, which we'll talk a little bit about later. And the rest is history. I started my teaching career in Inglewood at a CPS school in Inglewood. Spent a couple of years there before I moved to a school on the west side to be closer to home, had a young family at the time, and very quickly was tapped for an instructional coach position in a charter network with CPS. Did that for a few years before transitioning to a dean of students / assistant principal position in a different charter network. All of this prior to joining National about 8 years ago and on a very part-time adjunct capacity as a field supervisor coordinator. And my role in the department just kind of blossomed over time under Lisa's tutelage, of course. And now I sit as the associate director of the Office of Field Experience, with emphasis on residencies, field supervision, and DEIB strategy. We'll get into some of that later. You know, the titles, you reference all the titles, but yeah, so it's a pleasure to be here for sure.
I'm so excited to be able to talk to you all. So talk to us about what it even means, this teacher licensure having a different pathway than typical. Some of the programs that you oversee, I know they have a lot of different titles because you open avenues for a lot of different people to be able to figure out how they can get in. Could you briefly explain like the pathways and how someone might determine which one of those pathways might be best for them?
Sure. And I will start off with a few of the pathways, and then Brian will talk about some other additional ones. So, what we call our traditional program is where people come in either as an undergrad or a grad into our traditional licensure program to become a teacher. And it's very typical structure in terms of the undergraduate program. It's a 4-year program. The last 2 years is their teacher preparation. They do student teaching the last year. In the graduate program, we tend to attract career changers. That's a big part of what we have. Someone's already got their undergraduate degree. A lot of times they've been in another field, it might be a related field, and they just decided that they wanted to become a teacher. So both undergrad and grad, we have a lot of traditional student teachers, but we also have additional pathways that are kind of a hybrid of that. So we have some programs where someone might already be working for many years in a school. They come to us with experience, and they are actually the teacher of record in a school. So we have something called the paid student teaching program, where someone gets to stay where they are as the teacher of record, but they're taking coursework with us, and we're assisting them in getting that license. Brian will be talking about a couple of other pathways in just a second, but we have things like the accelerated program, which is in our early childhood program, where again, someone's already working in a school. They've been doing it for a long time. They never got the degree. But so it's a little bit of a shortened version of our traditional program. In the undergraduate program, they have competency-based, which is a whole interesting model where, again, people get to use their prior experience that comes into this. And then we have an intern program, and that is for people that are paraprofessionals. So we have teachers of records, we have and paraprofessionals. So sometimes people are already working as a para in a school, and we'll make it so that they can stay there and don't lose their employment, which is really an important part of what we do here. You want to make sure people can keep their jobs. But sometimes we work with school districts to fill their positions. That's the other thing that's really important about that they have all these paraprofessional positions that they need to fill. We find out where they are, and we try to match people up, and then they are in those positions. So those are just some of our traditional pathways. I want to let Brian talk about a couple of the other ones.
No, for sure. You're likely familiar with the phrase, got an app for that? Our running internal joke truly, but no, I mean, it just speaks to the innovation that the university is shepherding. But no, I have a personal selfish investment in alternative pathways because of my own journey. So we also do have a number of alternative pathways as a sort of general umbrella alternative, but they largely kind of filter into two different buckets. So on one pathway, we have folks who are alternatively licensed, already leading classrooms. They are the full teacher of record, but they are pursuing the degree and the license. So we are the conduit for them to actually achieve that through programs like Teach for America, who we are the sole partner for currently in Illinois. And then we also have the other bucket, which is those pre-service teachers in the teacher residency program. That's my personal wheelhouse because of my own personal experience, but that's where you have, borrowed similarly from a medical model, where you have a teacher resident who's in a classroom with an expert teacher for an entire year, essentially a year-long student teaching experience, where they are there every day, with the exception of a release day for classwork, just learning the craft with progressive responsibilities that build over time. Wonderful model to be able to get practice in, get paid for the work, and then transition more comfortably and confidently to the profession. So those are just a couple of different models that we have under the alternative umbrella.
I love it. Love it. It was so one of the questions that I want to ask that I didn't even have on here. Either one of you have a like a success story, one that you are like, oh, this makes it all worth it.
Ooh, that's tough.
Because it just seems like you're changing lives with the way that you're doing the programming. And I know the other cool thing about National Lewis is that and as you and I were prepping for this, is you don't just let people go even after they graduate. How do you connect? How do you make sure people still feel connected, supported, like they don't have to leave? Like, what do you do different? What do we do differently? What do you do differently in your program?
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
Well, we have our supervision model, I think, is really key. And Brian, maybe you can talk a little bit about that. And then we have a teacher induction program too. So
Yeah, mine immediately went to teacher induction, but we'll kind of just start with our general approach. And so we have, in our office specifically, two different roles that really touch the students on a first-hand basis: the supervisor and the field specialist. The supervisor is arguably the most unique and significant in that they are the ones who are actually shadowing them in the field for their entire field experience. No different than any other teacher preparation program, but a couple of things that I think that we do that are very intentional. They may happen other places, but I know for sure we have intentionality, is that in order to create a sense of community for those candidates that they work with and feel that sort of comfort and confidence, we try to co-create the same with our supervisors. We know that our supervisors come from many different backgrounds, from existing classroom teachers who are trying to just do some things on the side to former superintendents and everything in between. So they come with a lot of different skill sets, a lot of different interests. So we try as much as possible to get them together and create relationships, help them build relationships with each other. Couple of concrete examples: we have 2 workshops that we facilitate each year that are mandatory workshops, but the supervisors get excited about being there because it's very akin to a family reunion in terms of just how they are connecting. And they often talk about not the takeaways from the meetings, the actual content that we're covering, but just the connection, right? And that's pivotal. That's pivotal. And we try to extend that, recognizing that 2 touch points each year, it just isn't enough to really build and sustain relationships. So we have bi-weekly optional drop-in sessions that are Zoom based every other Friday during the fall, winter, and spring quarter. And it's a great place for an hour just to come and share celebrations, challenges, just talk to your peers and kind of see what's going on and keep that sense of community going. So we co-create that with the hope that that feeling then gets transferred to the way that they operate with
Yes.
candidates that they work with.
Yes.
And then from there, that energy keeps funneling down from those candidates to the students and families that they serve. So we really try to be intentional in recognizing that there is this sort of top-down approach where we can impact the whole chain at the level that we enter it. So
I love it. And Brian, that goes to the B in your title, this belonging, because and I think belonging is one of those words that people kind of like, especially now, are just starting to throw around without understanding the depth of what that takes. Like, you can't just say, yeah, I'm creating spaces of belonging. Yeah, what does that look like? Because you really got to get to know your people to be able to do that. And it feels to me like with your program and the ways that you all stay connected, that belonging is kind of at the core of what you all do. Talk to me about how you make it feel like that. Now, I know that you had me come and present at one of those sessions you were talking about. I could feel it like in the room, even though you don't see your people all the time. Somehow you all have created this space where people feel free to ask questions. People feel free to say, I don't know how to do this. Like, what are some strategies you've used?
I guess, we can sort of jump into that, but it might be a good point to insert the teacher induction, because even beyond their time with us, Lisa can speak to how that is a piece that well beyond our time, that community is still present for our students.
Yeah, we felt as though we have this wonderful community of educators that we create here, But then what happens after they graduate? And so we're going into our second year of the teacher induction program. And some of those supervisors that Brian is talking about are now actually part of that program. They're assisting with this, but we follow our graduates out into the field. We had this feeling after COVID, like what happened to everybody? And how do we know that they were okay? And how can we continue to support them just because they're done taking coursework with us? So we started our teacher induction program, and we're heading into year 2. And many of those same supervisors they're spilling over into that program as well. And the concept behind the program is that we know that all schools have teacher induction programs, they should, right? Where they have new teachers, but we want them to have a safe space where they can talk to us and ask questions and get support. One prime example would be, everybody probably is struggling with classroom management. Doesn't matter whether you're in an urban or a suburban school. And yet, are they going to really feel comfortable perhaps telling the person that hired them that, I actually am really struggling, or I'm having trouble with some of the instruction, with doing literacy work or whatever it may be. So we've created like a safe space here in this teacher induction program, and it's a free service for them, if you will. And it's meant to stack on and support whatever induction they're having in their school districts. But we really want people to stay in the field. It's one thing to get them out there. It's another thing to keep them there. So I think we do feel really strongly that it's not just getting people in the program, it's making sure that they stay in the profession.
Yes. Brian, did you want to add something?
Yeah.
What is your, the intentionality of creating spaces of belonging? Like, how do you and Lisa think of new ideas? Or do you use feedback from the people who are in? How do you all do that?
No, 100%. So we definitely are constantly collecting feedback from the people that we're responsible for leading. So we often get feedback through more formal means, through our supervisors, but also more informally, because they are comfortable to reach out when they have questions, concerns. And I think that kind of speaks to the larger point that I would make, which is just that, we often talk about this idea of being responsive is not just a bunch of things that you do necessarily. It's who you are. It's who you become. It's a way of being more so than just a series of actions. So we try to the best of our ability to actually lead by example. And if it's being patient and compassionate, we try to show that and be that for supervisors when they come to us. If it's extending grace, we try to do that when it's supervisors coming to us because of something that may have happened as a misstep in the field. And in turn, we've seen that transfer.
To their work.
Part of it is being, absolutely, just being the change that we wish to see. Not to sound too pie in the sky, but it's real.
Yes.
It's real. And I think
It is really real.
and that ultimately becomes tangible things like implementing the feedback that we've received and continuing to iterate based on the constant feedback loops. So yeah, those are just a couple of sort of cursory ways that we try to do that. But
And those drop-in sessions, those drop-in sessions started because of COVID, because we had no, how else were we gonna, but they have continued. We don't need to be doing it that way anymore, but people want to come. So it is a screen or 2 screens of people in these optional meetings. And I think that does speak volume, that people want to stay connected. And we've created, and Brian's helped to create this environment where people want to be together every other Friday so they can share with each other what's going on in their own practice.
yeah, for context, we have somewhere between roughly 80 and 90 active supervisors in the field currently. And of that
80 to 90?
yeah, it's a pretty sizable group. But of that group, we consistently have between 25 and 30 of those supervisors that are taking time out early afternoon on a Friday every other week to be present for these optional drop-in sessions, just to be a part of the community. So
That was amazing.
it's a beautiful thing that we help to usher in, but it's truly co-created because it works because they also got to participate and have a voice in it. So
That's right. So if I was a person who is going to be listening to this and always thought, maybe I do want to change careers. Maybe I do want to. People don't even understand how cool it is to be a teacher and just the look on kids' faces when they get it. Like, I try to explain that to my friends. They're like, yeah, right, I don't have anything to do with that. But like, What would you suggest for me as someone who's listening, who's thinking that sounds interesting? Like, what are the steps they would need to like get in touch with somebody to find out about which one of the programs might be best suited for them?
So we have an enrollment team, and Marcy heads that up. And I certainly am going to put myself out there though as well. So I love kind of networking with people and connecting people. But Marcy would be the person, and I actually talked to her before this, and she said that she would be comfortable with sharing her email address, and she recently got married, so now it's Marcy Zago, but it's mzago@nl.edu, and she is the director of enrollment, and she is the one that can either, if people want to go undergrad, they want to go grad, they want to do alt-cert, they want to do residency, they want to do traditional, she can do that. But I'm also happy to, I love that part. That is one of my favorite things about my job, is I get to kind of connect people. So I'm happy to do that as well. And I can be reached at lisa.mozer, M-O-Z-E-R, @nl.edu. And I'm happy to funnel people to where they need to be as well.
Awesome. Okay. Brian, anything to add?
No, I mean, I'll just throw my contact information out there for good measure. But yes, I'm at B Morris, my first initial last name, the number 8 @nl.edu. So B Morris 8 @nl.edu.
Nice. So how do you see this work that you all are engaged in with teacher preparation contributing to these big challenges that we are facing now and attracting people to the profession? Part of what I think has happened is that we got such negative press, teachers do sometimes, until everybody tried to do it during COVID. Like, they do know what they're doing. But like, how do you see in the scheme of the bigger picture, the work that you all are doing actually leading to us having better outcomes for students going forward?
One thing that I wanted to talk about, which is just, and I had to write this down because there's no way I would remember this, but it is amazing when you see the numbers, is the impact that we're having on the field. Despite COVID, despite what you hear about teacher shortages, we are really doing a tremendous amount to fill this. So in 2022 and 2023, if you added in our undergraduate and our graduate students, we had 1,665 students. That's how many placements we had. We were in 1,749 schools. We were in 372 cities, and we're outside of Illinois. We're not just in Illinois, but we're in Michigan and New York and Georgia and Florida and Texas and New York. So yes, the teacher shortage is real, but we have really, and Brian can, support me in this. We have seen our numbers, they fluctuate, of course, over the years and so forth, but they have remained steady, both undergrad and grad. And in fact, I think our numbers are higher than some other schools right now. And it's an interesting development because in some ways you would think it's counterintuitive that our numbers would be going up given, what happened after COVID and everything. But I feel that we are really doing a tremendous amount. I think some of that is our different pathways, but also we have figured out ways that people can keep their employment. I've got to go back to that. And that's been an important thing that our president at the university has really talked about. Like, if we don't get people jobs and keep them in jobs, we have not done our job. And I think we have figured out how to do that. I think that is what has happened, is we've been able to figure out how, whether you're a career changer or you're new to it, how you can be employed. And we have scholarships that support people, because it's really hard when you do your student teaching. You have to pull out in order to do your student teaching, and you don't have any employment. We have something called the GRAF Scholarship, which helps students. It pays for their tuition if they get the GRAF Scholarship when they are full-time student teaching. So we figured out lots of different ways to support our students so that they can be successful and make it through the program, and it is a challenge when you're having to step out of full-time employment.
Yeah, I mean, I would just add, that it really makes this idea of pursuing equity actionable, and to kind of piggyback on that, we try to meet the need. So we try to meet our partners where they are. So we're constantly in communication with some of our larger partners, like Chicago Public Schools and other larger districts, about where are they seeing the greatest needs for their teachers. So whether it be LBS1 certified teachers, maybe it's an early childhood emphasis. Out of these needs is born the specific program or programs that we've referenced. So we really try to be responsive to the needs of the larger education community in that way. So if we know that there's a particular area that is pursuing ethnically diverse teachers, we now have a means to be able to help
with that.
fill that need. So yeah, just trying to be as responsive as possible, and that is very much in line with the large university goals and mission to remain innovative and be in pursuit of equity at all times. So just more ways that we try to really be on the ground level and meet people where they are. So
I think everything that you all, if I had a program like yours when I was going through the teaching program, I think that I would have been so much better off as a brand new teacher than I was, because we all struggle a little bit at the beginning. I remember that first year. Like, I'm glad nobody that I know was able to see me doing that. But the belonging piece feels like it's like the reason you all are different, or your programming is different, because of the ways that you connect people, because of the ways you build relationships. So when I end the show each time, I think about the people who I'm going to be interviewing, and I think of a quote and then ask you to reflect on that quote. So the one that I thought about when I was going to be talking with you two is about this idea of true belonging. And it's a quote by Brene Brown. And she says that true belonging only happens when we present our authentic, imperfect selves to the world. Our sense of belonging can never be greater than our level of self-acceptance. So I'm going to ask you two, what do you each think about that quote and how it relates to the ways that your programming is encouraging people to show up as their true selves and it's working?
yeah, I think I'll certainly jump in and start. This one was heavy because I tried. I mean, I could easily connect individually to I could share a million one examples of how I connect personally, but I tried to really think about it from a broader perspective. And I think what I kept coming back to was that last part of the quote, which says, belonging can never be greater than our level of self-acceptance. And I think about just what we expect a great teacher to be and look like as the end product of the work that we as an institution do. And one of those things is to be a model for those things. One of those things is to show empathy and hold students capable and all the things that we want to see them do. And I think that if we use that as our foundation, even at our level, and we're intentional about trying to do things that align with that, then that's how we create that sense, or co-create or contribute to that sense of belonging. Concrete example, our student teachers, our teacher candidates are only with us as the Office of Field Experience for about 20 weeks because we're the last step on their journey.
Okay.
So we spend realistically the least amount of time with them. So we don't touch them as long or as much as others may. But what can we do with the time that we have to show them that they are valued, that they are capable, that they will actually do great work. And our specialists, we didn't talk about our field specialists, play a pivotal role in this in terms of just having that one-on-one relationship building connection with each of the candidates that they're actually trying to secure a placement for. So it's bigger than just finding a student teaching placement. I think they accept and embrace that they are the conduit to the career trajectory of these candidates.
Wow.
And really owning that part of it. It allows them to be really patient when there might be life things happening, right? Lifing with candidates. How do we handle that with grace? How do we empathize but still hold them capable? Meaning that we encourage from a place of, I do believe that you have the capacity. Therefore, I want to help you take care of these things so that it's not an impediment to you moving forward. It's just a way of being through some very specific actions that we see at each level of the department that we are in.
And you know what, Brian, you made me think of, sometimes I'm sure the field specialist people will see things in the candidates that the candidates don't even see in themselves.
Like a true educator would, absolutely.
Yes. Yes. Okay, Lisa.
Yeah, I was two things I would say. I mean, we are all about relationship building, and it goes from every single position. Everyone feels passionate about that. That's why they're here. they want to be doing that. And whether it's the field specialists, it's the supervisors, it's the faculty. But the other thing is, I think confidence building. I think that's what we look at it as. That's what we're here to do. We are here to build confidence in those teacher candidates. And how do we do that? It's by, giving them that emotional support, but it's also making sure that they get lots of practice out in the field. And whether it's our undergraduate or graduate program, they're out in the field constantly. So it's not, by the time they enter their student teaching, hopefully they've got some tools in their toolbox, but they're feeling good about themselves. And they know that if they're struggling, they can go to their faculty member, they can go to their field specialist, they can go to their supervisor or their field coach and or either one of us and get we'll be in contact with them and support them. So it's like an umbrella. I feel like we're, it's like wraparound supports is what I would say.
That part feels different to me at National Louis, like for real. And I'm not just saying that because I work there. It feels like we've worked on that a lot these last couple years that I've been there. Even taking those culturally responsive teaching and leading standards and incorporating them into the ways that I'm not just telling you what to do. I'm actually trying to become that myself for you at all levels. The fact that we're working on that makes it feel different at NLU. Well, thank you two so very much. Any final thoughts? Anything you want to say to people who might be going, I'm not sure if I want to become a teacher? Tell them, Brian, why should they do this? It's magic.
It literally is. I often, because I also have the privilege of wearing the hat of a professor, so I get to teach a few courses, and the constant message to students is, thank you for choosing to be here, because it truly is, in my assessment, one of the most impactful professions on the planet. Also one of the most challenging, but because of that, it also is, most importantly, one of the most rewarding. And when you can make it to the reward, there is, I would argue, no feeling like it, other than things that happen with your own children, right? There's no feeling like it. So that would be my encouragement. If you want to make a major impact on the world, this is the best place to do it. It's the best place to do it.
Thank you too so very much. I knew it was going to be good. Thank you so much for allowing me to take up what day is this? Thursday afternoon. Thank you so very much. And I will see you at work.
All right. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Gloria.